Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video I'm going to show you how to put a doubled-in stereo into a 96 and older Jeep Cherokee. So go ahead and stay tuned.
Okay, the first step you're going to want to do is undo a couple of screws. There's one right here next to your headlight switch, two up here, one right there, one right there, and then you're going to have one more over here next to your cigarette lighter. So go ahead and undo all those, and then you can pop this piece out too. This just held in with some clips here. Okay, once you get all four of those screws out and the clip on the bottom, you're going to want to just carefully wiggle this piece out. There's a couple of clips here on the bottom that are holding it in. So 1, 2, 3, 4 clips here, and then over by the radio side there's 2 more clips there, and then a couple more around the steering column that you're popping off. Just be careful with it, it's old plastic. Factory, it'll look something similar to this, where you've got a screw on each side holding it in with a bracket, and this will be stock setup. If you've got an aftermarket setup, it'll be a little bit different. I'll go ahead and run over that. You're going to want to undo both these screws and then go ahead and pull this forward. Factory setup, it'll look something like this when you pull it out. You'll have an antenna coming into one side that you can disconnect. That goes to your antenna. And then you'll have another big connector here that you can just squeeze and pop apart like that. What we're going to do next is I want to do a test fit up with the new stereo and see how it looks, make sure it's the right one before we get too far down this. So I'm going to tuck all these in, put the plastic back on, and slide the new radio in, and we'll see how it fits up. Okay, so here's a quick mock-up of what the radio would look like. It's a little bit big, and you can't see the words for the different settings, which kind of stinks. Okay, so I just got this temporarily up here to see how I like it. It's just sitting on a box. There's a clip here, so we'll have to do some trimming there, but it looks like it can actually reach, and everything will still work up there. Let's go ahead and see how this looks. If that goes right there, it looks pretty good. You can still get to all the controls up there. It overlaps a little bit down here, but not too bad. It looks a lot better in that spot than it does at the top, just because of how it sits. Maybe it's got more space here. Yeah, it's because it's got this gap here is bigger than this, which is even bigger than this, so it takes up this room here. Looks a lot better. Looks a lot better there. Well, let's go ahead and start going down that path and see how it looks. So I've done a bunch of measurements, trying to figure out where I wanted to drill these holes to move them up. Moral of the story is I got about 2.7883 up from these holes, but you got to measure in the diameters and all of that by measuring the front of it. Anyways, I got them all measured up, and now I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes in. The next step's going to be getting these little clips on here. Some of them may fit. We may have to go and Dremel the back side. Yeah, there's a little lip on the back. Maybe we can just open these up a little bit. Let's go ahead and try that and see what happens. What I did is I cut the front half of these off, so they're just a little back half of the tabs. So they're a little bit of a pain to get on there, but you can hold them up behind. And then screw in the screw, and it'll catch on that little nut tab piece. So that's in there. I've got 2 on the left, 1 on the right. We're gonna have to do some trimming there to get that piece so the front face will click in that corner, so we'll probably have to trim that hole off there. Okay, so got this hole mounted in here again. I had to take it all the way out to cut that tab off, so that way it clears for the bezel that goes over the whole thing. So I had to take it all the way out, cut it off with I used an angle grinder. You could probably use a Dremel to cut that off. And then mounted it all back in here. Used these little pieces that got cut, hold them up behind it and tighten them on. They seem to work. There's probably a better way to do it if you wanted to do a nut and bolt, or make a little nut strip that would go behind there, but this will work for now. And it holds it pretty good. I did notice that this corner wiggles a little bit more than the others, just because it doesn't have that tab now. But next step was I'm going to start trying to figure out how to mount that head unit in. And I've got the center bolt, but I also have these other 2. So we'll try to see which one would work. And then I did order the plastic piece, so let's go ahead and start working through that. Okay, so this is one of those install kits. This is from Metra 995700, which says it's for a Jeep. But since we're doing a little bit different application, we'll have to make sure. I'm going to go ahead and cut the tabs off the top and the tabs off the bottom. It says we're supposed to be using these tabs here, letter E, and you're supposed to cut off the rest of them. I'm going to leave the side ones on just for now until we figure out exactly which ones we want, but I'll cut the top off and then we'll go ahead and go from there. It's got the cage in it that came with this. Hopefully that'll slide all the way back in and we'll be happy where it's at. If not, we'll go from there. Pulled off the stuff off to the left to try to make some more room. Try to figure out which holes I needed. These are the ones I'm supposed to be using. Looks like I can't go all the way down because I gotta trim that little corner right there and that little corner right there. So I'll go ahead and trim those up and we'll see if we can get this in. We're also going to have the same issue with the nuts on the back side of this one as well. So I went and trimmed this corner out and trimmed this corner out. So now this guy fits and the hole lines up pretty good there with this all the way. And the hole pretty much will line up there. The other one I might do is I might set it back behind if I can. I'm going to trim off these other tabs. Looks like I probably won't need them. I could, if I wanted to, drill some more and use the other holes, but I don't think I'll need them. I already drilled these 2 for this, so I'll probably use these 2. I'm going to cut off the rest of the tabs and then we'll start seeing how we want to bolt it up. So I got it mocked up in here. It's not plugged in, so we're going to have to go back in there and do the wiring still, but just wanted to see how it would look. Up-down wise looks pretty good. I might go down a bolt. There's settings on the back to move it down, so I might go down one just to try to get it a little bit more centered in here. And then it's sticking out quite a bit, so I might flip it and see if I can mount it back a little bit more, just so it doesn't stick out as much. I mean, it's not too bad, but I just don't like the fact that if you look from the side, you know, there's a gap right there. So either build a bezel or trim piece, but I'm going to see if I can get it back a little bit. It doesn't match the dash perfectly, right? So if I can go back a little bit, at least get rid of most of the gap, it'll probably be okay. You know, we'll see. How this is mounted, I had to Dremel out the bottom here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo these and then I'm going to flip this to the back side of this panel to try to gain that little 1/2 inch that we need back further. I got this mounted where I want it. Okay, so this is now mounted behind this plate to gain me a little bit more depth further into the dash, which got me about 0.35 inches, and I needed about half an inch, so got a little bit closer. We'll see how it looks when we get it in. Now let's jump over and take a look at the wiring. For this, should be pretty standard across all radio wiring. These are kind of switched over to the standardized wiring colors now, so you don't really need to do this method anymore if you buy one of these, which I strongly recommend you do. Let's see, I should have, here's the 701002. That's for 83 to 96. That's this part here. And it would plug into your factory harness, just like that, which we've recreated in there. The only thing I might do is add to pin number 3 here, is I might add my ground, and then I'll change this blue instead of a power antenna, I think is what blue normally is, to this black ground, and then run that through this connector. Or you can keep the power antenna if you want, or I think I have some extra of these pins, so I might run a black through there. Okay, so I gotta cut this. This is another connector that it came with that we're not gonna be using. This is your harness piece. You're not gonna need most of this, unless you want a rear view camera, you can add that. Key 1, key 2 is if you're in a newer car. It's not gonna matter on here. Brake, you may have to wire this up if you want to do certain features on the radio, like watch movies and stuff. You may have to wire this in. And then what you're going to want to do is go through each of these and match these up. For the most part, the colors will match up. The thing that we're going to have to work on is going to be this black, because there's no black over here. So red and yellow should be fine. It's going to be blue power antenna. We may go and switch that over to our black, because we're not going to have a power antenna. Before I forget, okay, those are all on there. These are already stripped, they came pre-stripped. These ones we're gonna have to strip here. I may not strip all of them at once, just so I don't ding up the ends. Let's start at one end and work our way over. Okay, one down. Okay, looks like I got yellow and black left. I don't know if you can see this, but 10 is panel dimmer, 11 is LCD dimmer. So you've got 2 dimmers. So I finished up this connector. I did go black to a blue, but I coated it in shrink tubing so it's black all the way through. Hopefully I'll remember next time I'm in here. Then I did add a brown wire into pin 3. Okay, looks like we're all good as long as that's where it needed to go. So let's start piece by piece. So let's go ahead and try this piece in here. There we go. There's a lot of harness to try to fit in there. Yeah, here you go. This way you can have your... There we go. Alright. So we've got no touch. Click the reset hole if the touch screen not work. There we go. Getting somewhere. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Okay, let's get back in here and see what we can get. Cool, you want up? Okay. I definitely like the knob. It's like while you're driving you can just tap it and turn it off. Look at that. Now my car can be a calculator. Look at that. And I can have Google Maps. Alright, well, so let's go ahead and finish installing this, and then we can mess with this once it's all the way in there. It's got some options. It's got USB stuff we could probably run down, and then it's got I think it has a USB on the front. No, maybe it doesn't. Nope, no. Oh, it's got an SD card slot on the front. 3 USBs in the back. Alright, so I slid the radio back in, got it all wired in. This is its final state that I'm pretty happy with. I've got some USB and the SIM card running over to the glove box, and then I have the GPS antenna that runs over and sits up on top of the dash over there.
Thanks for watching today's video on how to put a doubled-in stereo into a 96 and older Jeep Cherokee. Hope you learned something. If you would have done something a little bit different, go ahead and put it in the comments below. If you could, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe. That's how the YouTube algorithm works. And stay tuned for more good videos on Jeeps and trucks and all sorts of stuff. Thanks.